K-Mart, can I give you a little eye candy
Give it
here?
to me.
Want to see something just beautiful? This is Aaron Rodgers on a football field, moving around comfortably, throwing passes as only he can, as we hope that the last 364 days of our lives can be erased and forgotten and never happen again. Look how good he looks. Am I the only one who thinks he looks ridiculously good? Domonique, look how good the man looks.
Wow.
Look at him trotting.
Yeah, I think he looks great.
Oh, he looks
excited.
good.
Start getting
He
your
looks
ring
ready
fit.
to go. And he was talking yesterday, too. So one last time, once, and then we're never bringing it up again. The off-season distractions, including the trip to Egypt during the mandatory minicamp, which even I can't say with a straight face. Aaron Rodgers addressed it yesterday.
I made it a point to be at every OTA. I was at the physical day as a part of the minicamp. Missed the 2 practices. Had talks with all my teammates about it. I think they understood it was obviously more of an issue outside the building than it was inside the building. Robert and I are great. We had great conversations throughout the off season. It is what it is. I'm an adult. I knew what I was getting into. I knew the fine that was coming, and also knew how much I wanted to be in Egypt. I wish there hadn't been a conflict scheduling wise, but was what it was.
It was what it was.
Was what it was. One of my favorite sentences. You can apply it to practically anything, and it works. So I want to start with D. Wood, right? I mean, you're the former Jet. You've been in there and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you were to just create a Mad Lib of Aaron Rodgers offseason, it would be very difficult to follow. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, football quarterback, considered running for vice president. Then during mandatory minicamp, he was in Egypt visiting the pyramid. I mean, you could never believe this all actually happened. But is it over? They're on the field. Is this now over? Is this about football, and nothing else from this moment forward? Damien Woody.
Greeny, we have made it to training camp, my friend. It's all football from here. I want to know who decided to put this in the rundown. Was it Fink who decided to put this on the rundown? Because damn it, we are on the football field. There is no reason to bring this up. We should all be focusing on that fantastic footwork from Aaron Rodgers, the beautiful passes from Aaron Rodgers.
Boy.
Why the hell are we bringing up minicamp stuff? Let's go. I'm fired up this morning. Let's
You
go.
feel that? Meek, you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're done with that particular side story. But, I mean, it seems like Aaron Rodgers, since, his last season in Green Bay, has wanted us to consider him some sort of thought leader. And he's had words to say about a bunch of things. So I think we're done with this minicamp stuff. But I definitely don't think that we're done with Aaron Rodgers saying things that's going to require us to respond to him and saying things that are going to require reporters to ask Robert Saleh questions. It seems like that's important to Aaron, to be able to speak his mind, and his mind is not always 100% on football. So our coverage of him and that team is never going to be 100% about football.
I happen to have one of those reporters seated directly to my left. So I mean, you were there.
Covered many a Jets distraction
Exactly.
over
I will
years.
remind everyone, K-Mart was a Jets beat reporter before any of the other roles that you now know her from. So what is your sense of this? I mean, are they all good in there?
Yeah, and here's what I can say. Last year, I was at Florham Park for Jets Report Day as well, for the beginning of the Aaron Rodgers era. And I can tell you the difference between last year and now, there are no more Hard Knocks cameras. There are no more speeches from Robert Saleh in the building talking about, oh, we're Eagles, and then the Crows try to come and peck at us and, feed on our cart and all that kind of stuff. The vibe is different. It really is about football because of last year. Now people aren't as intrigued by the Jets. Now it's okay, can this guy stay healthy, the offensive line? And I think that's better for them. Jets fans, this is much better. The team wants to be under the radar, and they want to just focus on football. And I think the good news is Aaron Rodgers is here. There's no more get to know you process. It's now they just want to hit the ground running, and that's great.
Okay, so then let's play the soundbite D. Wood wants to hear, which is the football one. The New York Jets currently have the longest playoff drought of any team in the NFL. That kind of stinks. Here is what Rodgers thinks the expectations could be for this season.
It has to be the goal. I mean, the beauty is every single year there's 8 to 12 teams, maybe, probably less, but 8 to 12 teams that could actually do it. And we're one of those 8 to 12.
That's a reasonable way to look at it, right? I mean, that one, that every year there are something like that.
Show me the lie in what he said.
Right.
He's not lying.
What do you talk to me, Domonique Foxworth?
Yeah, no,
I believe he froze.
Dominique is so excited about this Jets season. He can't. He just glitched in the Matrix.
He can't. What it is he can't bring himself to say good things about the Jets, and that's why his signal froze.
I was being
Go ahead,
positive.
Nate.
I
Go.
was being positive. I think in this team haven't themselves offensively yet. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like at this age off of Achilles injury. That defense, we do know what to expect. But everything he said is absolutely right. They are talented enough. As long as they stay healthy at some key places where they haven't been traditionally all that healthy, including their offensive line, they can be competitive. But I'm certainly not going to count out a team that's as talented as this one.
Here's the most complicated part of it. D-Wood, you've been on championship teams. You've been on great teams. You've been on teams that have made deep playoff runs with the Jets. And, of course, you won those Super Bowls with the Patriots. The really complicated part of it is because of the uncertainty about Rodgers' future. I mean, he's year to year. He's a 40-year-old quarterback. There's no other expectation. Because they have put all the eggs into this basket, we're talking about a team that has not made the playoffs in 13 years, whose goal is basically Super Bowl or bust, right? That's a really complicated place to be. A small step forward is not an acceptable result because you're not really building. This is it. So you got to go from basically 0 to 60 in 1 year. If you're on that team, how does that work?
Yeah, Greeny, I've done it in my career. In 2000, when I was with the Patriots, we went 5-11. The next year, we won the Super Bowl. Basically what it is, everyone knows the expectations are high in New York with Aaron Rodgers, and we know that he's year to year. I think the biggest thing, and just with Robert Saleh is trying to focus on is let's just keep the main thing the main thing.
All around the league, because all 32 teams have now officially reported to training camp. Some notable stars, however, have not. So let's catch up here at K-Mart. Let's begin with CeeDee Lamb. Not expected to be on the field for the Cowboys' first practice today. What can you tell us?
This situation, if you're a Cowboys fan, you feel like this could have been avoided. Listen, CeeDee Lamb wants to get paid, and he is not showing up until his contract is resolved. The Cowboys, it's not just him, it's Dak Prescott, it's Michael Parsons, all want new deals, but CeeDee is not in the building, which is a big deal because he is a big-time producer for them.
Absolutely. He's everything for them. I mean, Dak is going to be there this year. CeeDee Lamb, they need to get this thing done yesterday because they start practicing today. Speaking of holdouts, All-Pro offensive tackle Trent Williams did not report to the 49ers yesterday. What's going on there?
Yeah, remember when it was just Brandon Ayuk who was upset about his contract in San Francisco? Well, Trent Williams, arguably the best left tackle in the NFL, he's unhappy too. You know why? Because he's got several more years left in his contract, but he's now not the highest paid left tackle, and he is the best one out there. So they expect this hopefully to get resolved. The question is when, though, Greeny.
Well, you mentioned Ayuk, so he's doing the opposite. He's holding in, which was kind of what I predicted yesterday.
You're a genius, my friend.
Brandon Ayuk is in camp, but that's what he's dressed in, right? While everyone else is wearing shoulder pads, he's walking around in shorts and a T-shirt.
Yep.
We saw him walking off the practice field at one point with the general manager.
Yep.
So the hold-in is on. What do we know?
He's there, so he's not participating, not getting fined, which is key for a guy who's trying to make more money. But again, the fact that the 49ers have said we want him in the fold, we expect him to be here. However, that door is always open. If another team says, hey, we'll give you what you want for him, this story could take a much different turn.
Well, look. We had this yesterday, and we played the John Lynch soundbite, and I pointed out that John Lynch was not closing the door. Mm-hmm. If there was literally no chance, like if there were just a few non-negotiables in everyone's life, where if you were asked about them, you say, no, nothing, there's zero. Is Brandon Ayuk going to be on your team? Yes. What else do you want to know? He didn't say that. He said, yeah, we answer the phone. We'll see what happens. He recognizes Ayuk wants money. He recognizes they're probably not going to be the ones to give it to him. And so maybe onwards we go here. Damien, Woody, let's live in a world where Brandon Ayuk is not a 49er this year. What does that mean for San Francisco?
I don't think they're the best team in the NFC. Like, Brandon Ayuk is their best wide receiver. Okay, he is their best wide receiver. I know we talk about Deebo Samuel and how dynamic he is, but Brandon Ayuk is their number one receiver. You take Brandon Ayuk out of this offense is going to look different, very different. And so if Brandon Ayuk, if something happens where he's traded, listen, I can't call the 49ers the favorite in the NFC. I mean, Detroit, there's going to be other teams that's coming as well. So that just shows you, in my opinion, the importance of Brandon Ayuk to the San Francisco 49ers offense.
And it goes to show you, Domonique, and again, I lean on your expertise here as one who ran the NFL Players Association for a long time. The value of the hold-in, he's there, but he can push this as hard as he chooses to push it. And essentially, does this become a game of chicken? I mean, how does this thing play out now? Because we know he wants to get paid, and the difference between what he's going to make this year and what he is worth, based upon what other NFL wide receivers are making, is a substantial difference.
There really is no pressure on Brandon Ayuk right now because the hold in, there's really very little penalty if you're holding in. It's not a holdout where you get fined and in the CBA it says that you cannot waive those fines. So that is taking a much bigger risk than holding in. At some point, though, I think that he's going to want to have a decision made so he can move on with his career and he can make the money that he wants. And John Lynch, as a former player, I think understands that. I don't think it's over for this team without Brandon Ayuk. I also think that he does deserve to get paid. We saw what this team looked like last year without Deebo Samuels, and I think the dynamism and the versatility of players like Deebo, Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey is something that I think Kyle Shanahan appreciates more than even a receiver as good as Brandon Ayuk. I think he's more valuable elsewhere probably than he is in San Francisco, despite the fact that they don't have a replacement ready to step in for him.
Yeah, I'll remind everybody for those, because, you know, it's been a long offseason. They did draft 2 receivers, including one in the first round. That's Ricky Pearsall. Now, he's hurt, and I'm not sure exactly when he's going to be ready to play. That obviously hurts. They're also a team that could do with replenishing some draft capital because they traded a bunch of it away for Trey Lance, and so they still have not. So they getting a king's ransom, if you will, from Washington, which is the team that we know Ayuk wants to go play for if possible, because he's buddies with Jaden Daniels and everything else. There are some pieces of that make some sense.
There are. It makes sense why the Commanders, would want him, Jaden Daniels. The Patriots, he mentioned the Steelers. Brandon Ayuk, but here's the thing. Brandon Ayuk was even asked, I guess, by Ryan Clark on The Pivot, where do you see yourself this year? And he said, yeah, probably San Francisco. I mean, I think that's part of the reason I think he's going to end up exactly where he stands, like right in San Francisco, because the team has the leverage. And also, if you're San Francisco, you can say you could go to New England and get your bag. That's cool. But are you going to be playing for a Super Bowl? Like we can't guarantee that, but that's the trajectory we're on. We're in a win now. And sometimes, I don't know if that players want to get paid. I get that. But sometimes the grass isn't always greener elsewhere.
So what do you think, D-Wood? Domonique, you're right there in D.C. I mean, if that were to happen, if you look at it, if you're the Commanders, you got the young quarterback, you want to develop the young quarterback.
And their GM, where was their GM, Adam Peters? San Francisco.
So no one knows Ayuk better than he does. I'll remind anyone who doesn't remember that Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk were teammates once upon a time at Arizona State. So there's a relationship there. How does it feel to you? That one feels like it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can put him opposite McLaurin, and I think we've all understand that protection and weapons is what you need as a young receiver to take, as a young quarterback to take pressure off of that young quarterback. So if you can give Daniels a couple of really reliable receivers that he can throw to, I think that does help his development.